Good morning, everyone. Today we are working on our second lesson in this packet. It's about vertical and adjacent angles. So let's go ahead and get started. In the picture below, lines X and lines Y are straight lines that intersect. Here is your point of intersection right here. Use a protractor to measure each of the four angles that were formed by this, and then complete the table. Alright, so here's our first one. We'll measure angle A first. Whenever you're measuring angles, sometimes it's nice to extend the line so that if you're using a protractor, you can actually see where it will cross. So I like to extend my line. When I extend my line, I can see that it crosses at about 50 degrees. So angle A would be 50. Let's measure angle B. If I look at this one, it's at about 130, you'll notice. If I come down here to angle C, I'm going to extend my line again in this direction, just so that I can see exactly where it passes. Alright, when I do that, it looks like this one is 50 degrees as well. And angle C, they're congruent, meaning they're the exact same degrees. They measure the exact same. If you were to look at angle B and angle D, they are also congruent, meaning they are the exact same degrees. What do you notice about the sum of all four angles? So if I were to take these and I were to add them, 50 plus 50 is 100. 130 plus 130 is 260, so that gives me a total of 360 degrees. And any time that you go around a circle like that, or it forms a circle, it should equal 360 degrees. If you were to look at these two right here, just angle A and angle B, if you were to put those two together, you would get a supplementary angle. They equal 180. Or if you did B and C, you'd get 180. Or C and D, or A and D. Either way, you take two of those angles and add them together, you're going to get 180 degrees. The two types of special angles are formed when two lines intersect. So whenever you have two lines like this and they intersect, they form some things that are called special angles. We're going to use this picture above to help us define the angles below. First of all, it says a pair of opposite angles formed by intersecting lines, the angles are always going to be congruent. Alright, so that means, looking at this picture, we have our two intersecting lines right here. The ones that are opposite one another, so in this case, angle A and angle C, or angle B and angle D, they would be opposite angles and they will always be congruent, meaning they're always going to measure the exact same thing. Now we have adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are two angles that share a common side. So one of the sides that they have are common, and they also share a common vertex. If the two angles form a straight line, they are supplementary and have a sum of 180 degrees. So let's just take a look up here at this one. So in this first example right here, let's just look at angle A and angle B. This is the side that they share right here, This is the vertex. The point is the vertex that they share. And if you put them together, they would equal 180 degrees. So they are supplementary. So in this case, the set would be angle A and angle B. They're adjacent. They're right next to each other. They share a common side, a common vertex. You could also have angle B and angle C. You could also have angle C and angle D. Or you could have angle A and angle D. So I'll just put one more. I'll put C and D down here. That's another set of examples. Again, they have to share a common side and a common vertex, and when you add them together, they equal 180 degrees. All right, looking down here, use what you know about intersecting lines to label the missing angles in the picture. Well, if we take a look right here, if this is 148, this is directly opposite, so X has to be 148 degrees as well because they have to be congruent. The type of angle pair, well, these are vertical angles. Vertical angles are always opposite. In this case right here, they share a common side. This is the side that they share. Here is your vertex that they share right there because they are right next to each other. This missing side has to be 145 degrees because you know when you add both of these angles together right here, it has to equal 180. Because they share a common side and a common vertex, these are called adjacent angles. Okay, adjacent angles. All right, moving on to the next page. It says use your understanding of angle relationships to set up and solve an equation to find the missing angle measures. So we have to do an equation first of all. So in this case, we know that both of these two equal 117. So we're going to say x plus 94 equals 117. To solve this problem, you would say minus 94 from both sides. Those would cancel, and your value would be 23 degrees. The angle measures, well, the first angle is 94 degrees. The second is 23. Those are just our angle measures. In our next one, in this case, we're going to say 2x plus x. If you add those two together, you get 141 degrees. Combine your like terms, you get 3x equals 141. To solve, you divide both sides by 3. X cancels. 141 divided by 3 is 47. So that's our value of x. So the two angles would be, well, the first one is 47. And then you have to say 2 times 47. So our second would be 94 degrees. These two angles are opposite, so they're vertical, so they have to be equal. So we're going to say 3x is equal to 20. To solve, divide both sides by 3, and that gives us x being 6.6 repeating. So our first angle is 20 degrees. We know that one. And then if you say 3 times 2/3, or 6 2/3, if you do that, it better be 20 as well. But let's just take a look and see why that is. Now 6.6 repeating is the same as 6 2/3. If I say 6 2/3 and I change that to an improper fraction, I'm going to say 3 times 6 is 18. 18 plus 2 is 20. So this gives me 20 over 3. And if I'm multiplying that by 3, well, it becomes 3 over 1. The 3's cancel. 20 times 1, it just gives me 20. So that is how we got 20 from that right there. All right. Angle relationships allow us to determine any unknown angle measure. all angles around a point or a vertex will always have the sum of 360 degrees. So anytime you go around, like if you look at this down here, if you were to go around all of these, they have to equal 360 degrees. So we can also solve these type of problems. Determine the missing angle measures. So in this case, we know right here that this is 100. So we're going to say 60 plus 40 is 100. Right here. And then we're going to say plus angle K. So plus angle K, so I'm just looking at this, that has to equal 180. Because if I were to put these three together, it makes a straight angle, so those three equal 180 degrees. So to figure out what angle K would be, I would subtract 100 from both sides, and I'd find that angle K is 80 degrees. Now if I want angle M, now I've got to switch it up because now I know that angle K is 80. So if I'm looking for M, now I'm doing a new one right here. I know that these two also, if I add them together, I would say 80 plus whatever angle M is, that has to equal 180. Subtract 80 from both sides, and M would be 100 degrees. Now another way I could have looked at this same problem, if I were to put these two together right here, is that the same measure as this one right here? They're vertical angles, they're directly across. So if these two equal 100, this one has to equal 100 as well. That's another way I could have done it. Could I also find angle P? Well, sure. It's vertical to angle K, so this one has to be 80 degrees as well because it's directly across or vertical to angle K. So there's not always just one way to solve each problem. Sometimes there are multiple ways. In our next example, it says determine the missing angle measures. Well, remember, if you see this symbol, this right here means 90 degrees. So if I were to add all three of these together right here, they form a straight angle, so I know that they have to equal 180 degrees. So if I say 90 plus 32, I get 122 plus angle G is equal to 180. Subtract 122 from both sides. Those cancel, and that makes angle G 58 degrees. Now if I want angle K, I could do it a couple of ways. I could notice right here that these two, right here if I put them together, are directly vertical from this one. So all I need to do is say 32 plus 90 equals angle J. So if I add those two together, I get 122 degrees. That is one way I could have looked at it. All right, let's look at our last example. In this last one, we're looking for angle Z right here. Well, if you put all three of these together, you will notice that they must equal 180 degrees. So our equation would be 29 plus Z plus 112 equals 180 degrees. If I combine those and then subtract, I will get 39 degrees. Okay, so we know that this right here is 39 degrees. Directly across from that would be angle X. Angle X would also be 39 degrees then. I guess I should make these a little smaller so it doesn't look 390. Okay, angle W is directly across from 112, so this one would also have to be 112 degrees, and angle Y is directly across from the 29, so this would be 29 degrees. All right, your homework for today is completing homework assignment number 2. Make sure you write an equation and solve it for each one of these, and double check your answer or your solution is down here below. And go ahead and try to solve what DIY tools do you use in math. Now once you finish this, you also have a couple of mazes that you can work on today. The exact same thing. You just have to figure out the missing angle and find your way through each of these. Okay? So it shouldn't be too hard. If you take a look at this first one, you'll notice that x has to be 13. Okay? So it's pretty easy. What I want to see for work on here is I want to see x plus 60 equals 73. And then I want to see that x is equal to 13 as well. Okay? That's what you need to do for both of these. So all of this is pretty easy. It is going to be homework tonight and it will be due when you come to class tomorrow. Good luck.